Alright, so chapter 27. Luke stifled his instinct to run. He turned around as slowly as he could. Guns had been outlawed for everyone but government officials long before he was born, but he recognized that the object pointed at him from books and Dad's descriptions. Dad had always talked about hunting rifles and shotguns, big guns to bring down deer or wolves. This gun was smaller, meant to kill humans. All that flashed through Luke's mind before he looked beyond the gun to the man holding it. He was tall and fleshy, his expensive clothes only partially hiding his bulk. Luke had seen him only from a distance before. "You're Jen's dad," he said. "I didn't ask who I was," the man snapped. "Who are you?" Luke exhaled slowly. "A friend of Jen's," he said cautiously. Only because he was watching very, very closely did he see the man lower the gun by a fraction of an inch. "Please," Luke said. "I just want to know where she is." This time the man clearly relaxed his gun hand. He circled around behind Luke and snapped off the computer. "Jen says you have to park the hard drive before you do that," Luke said. "How do you know about Jen?" the man asked. He narrowed his eyes. Luke blinked. The man was bargaining, he realized, offering to negotiate. He wanted something from Luke before he would tell Luke anything about Jen. But what? "I'm a third child too," Luke said finally. The man's expression didn't change, but Luke thought he saw a flicker of interest in his eyes. "I'm a neighbor. I found out about her and I started coming over when I could." "How did you know she was here?" the man said. "I saw." Luke didn't want to get her in trouble. "I saw lights when I knew everybody was gone. I guessed. I really wanted there to be another third child for me to meet." "So Jen was careless," the man said, with an edge to his voice that Luke didn't understand. "No," Luke said uncertainly. "I was observant." The man nodded, only to accept Luke's answer. Then he sat down in a chair by the computer desk and rested the gun on his leg. Luke took this as a sign that the conversation might last long enough for him to find out something. "Did Jen teach you how to disable our alarm system?" the man asked. Luke saw no point in lying. "Yeah, but I must have screwed up since you came." "No. If you screwed up, the security guards would have come, but I have set it, so I automatically notified if the system shut down while I'm away. Given the circumstances, I decided to investigate it myself." Luke longed to ask what circumstances he meant, but the man was already asking another question. "So what else did you and Jen do together?" the man said. Luke couldn't understand why he sounded so accusatory. "Nothing," Luke said. "I mean, we talked a lot. She showed me the computer. She wanted me to go to the rally, but I was too scared." Too late, Luke thought to wonder if the man knew about the rally. Was Luke betraying Jen's confidence? But the man didn't seem surprised. He was studying Luke as intently as Luke had been studying him. "Why didn't you stop her?" the man asked. "Stop Jen? That's like trying to stop the sun," Luke said. The man gave Luke the faintest of smiles, one that contained no happiness. "Just remember that," he said. "So where is she?" Luke asked. The man looked away. "Jen's," his voice broke. "Jen's no longer with us. She's dead," the man said harshly. Somehow Luke had known without wanting to know. He still stumbled backwards in shock. He bumped into the couch and sagged into it. "No," he said, "not Jen. You're lying." His ears roared. He thought crazy things. "This is a dream, a nightmare. I'll make myself wake up." He remembered Jen talking a mile a minute, gesturing wildly. How could she be dead? He tried to picture her lying still, not moving, dead. It was impossible. The man was shaking his head helplessly. "I'd give anything to have her back," he whispered. "But it's true. I saw. They gave us the body. Special privilege for a government official." His voice was so bitter, Luke could barely listen. He couldn't even bury her in the family plot. Couldn't take a bereavement day off of work. Couldn't tell anybody why we're going around with red eyes making hearts. No, we just had to pretend to be the same old family of four that we've always been. "How?" Luke asked. "How did she die?" He was thinking if the car got wrecked, it wouldn't be so bad, or maybe it had nothing to do with the rally. Maybe she just got really sick. "They shot her," Jen's father said. "They shot all of them. All 40 kids at the rally, gunned down right in front of the president's house. The blood flowed into the rose bushes, but they had the sidewalk scrubbed before the tourists came so that nobody would know." Luke started shaking his head. No, and he couldn't stop. "But Jen, do you have a question, Jasper?" Or were you just shocked by what happened? Jasper. Yeah, it was kind of shocking. Remember the first time I read this book, I was like, what? Yeah, I was kind of shocked that this occurred. Uh, but Jen said there'd be too many people to shoot. She'd say there'd be 1,000. Luke protested, as if Jen's words could change what he was hearing. Our Jen had too much faith in the bravery of her fellow hidden, Jen's father said. Luke flinched. I told her I couldn't go. I told her it's not my fault. No, Jen's dad said quietly, and you couldn't have stopped her. It's not your fault. There were plenty of other people who deserve blame. They probably would have shot 1,000 or 15,000. They don't care. His face twisted. Luke thought he had never seen such pain, not even the time that Matthew dropped the sledgehammer on his foot. Tears began to spill down Jen's father's face. What I don't understand is, why did she do this children's crusade? She wasn't stupid. We've been warning her about the population police her whole life. Did she really think this rally would work? He said. Yes, Luke assured him. Then, unbidden, the last words she'd spoken to him came back to him. We can hope. After she told him hope was worthless. Maybe she knew this rally would fail. Maybe she even knew she would probably die. He remembered the first day he met her when she cut her hand to cover the drops of blood on the carpet. There was something strange in Jen he couldn't quite understand that made her willing to sacrifice herself to help others, or try to. I think at first she thought the rally would work, told Jen's dad. Then, even when she wasn't sure, she still had to go. She wouldn't call it off. Why? Jen's dad asked. He was sobbing. Did she want to die? No, Luke said. She wanted to live, not die, not hide. Live. The words played over and over again in his brain. Not hide, live, not hide, live. So notice there's like repetition there. As long as he held on to them, he felt like Jen was there. She just left the room for a minute to get potato chips, maybe, and she'd be back to lecture him again about how they both deserved a better life than hiding. He could believe it was her voice echoing in his ears. But if he let go, let the words stop for a minute, he was lost. He felt like the whole world was spinning away from him and he was all alone. He wanted to cry out, Jen, come back, as if she could hear him and stop the spinning and come to him. As if from a great distance, Luke heard Jen's father heave a sigh and blow his nose in a businesslike way. You may not be ready to hear this, he said, but... Dizzily, Luke raised his head and listened, half-heartedly. When you logged in that chat room, a buzzer went off in a room in population headquarters. They're monitoring this chat room very closely. They found it after the rally. I managed to cover things up about Jen, but they'll trace your message back to our computer. The population police are backlogged right now following leads from the rally, so I should have a day or two to come up with a plausible-sounding explanation, but if they investigate too careful, you may be in danger. More than usual? Luke said sarcastically. Jen's dad took the question seriously. Yes. They will be actively looking for you. They'll search every house around this one. It wouldn't take them long to find you. A chill ran down Luke's spine. So he would die, just like Jen. Or not like her, she'd gone bravely. He'd be caught like a mouse in its hole. But if you let me, Jen's dad continued, I can get you a fake ID. You can be miles away before they come looking. You'd do that for me, Luke asked. Why? Because of Jen. But how? I have connections, you see. Jen's dad hesitated. I work for the population police. Right, so that's another kind of big shock here that you find out her father's actually working for the population police. Now, he does not take this well. Luke began screaming and couldn't stop. Suddenly his brain didn't seem to have any control whatsoever what his body did. He felt his legs spring up and propel him towards Jen's dad. He saw his own hand grab for the gun and wrestled it away. He heard a voice he barely recognized as his own scream again. No, no, no. Stop, Jen's dad yelled. Stop, you little fool, before you get us both killed. Somehow the gun was in Luke's hand. Jen's dad lunged at him, and Luke could picture Jen's dad tackling him just as Jen tackled him all those months ago. This time, Luke stepped to the side at the last moment, and Jen's dad crashed uselessly into the far wall. Luke pointed the gun at him and struggled to hold it steady. Jen's dad turned around slowly. You can shoot me, he said, holding his hands helplessly in the air. I might even welcome the chance to stop missing Jen, but it'd be a mistake. I swear to you, in the name of everything that's sacred, in Jen's name, I'm on your side. Jen's dad stared into Luke's eyes, waiting. Luke felt a surge of pride that he'd gotten the upper hand, that he'd earned the right to decide what happened next, but how could he know what was right? Surely Jen's own father wouldn't lie in her name, would he? Luke squeezed his eyes shut. Then he lowered the gun to the side. Good, Jen's dad said, audibly releasing his breath. Luke let Jen's dad walk towards him and gently take the gun and lay it on the desk. I was going to explain, Jen's dad said, panting a little. He sat down. I only work at the Population Police headquarters. I don't agree with what they do. I try to sabotage them as much as I can. Does anybody know what that word sabotage means? Sabotage. Alright, sabotage means to break on purpose, right? They try to ruin it. So, people who sabotage are usually like spies or something, right? But working for the opposite side. So when you sabotage it, you're ruining something on purpose. I try to sabotage them as much as I can. Jen never understood either. Sometimes you have to work from the inside enemy lines. So again, her father was working for the Population Police, but basically was on the side of their children and whoever else. Jen's dad talked and talked and talked. Luke thought he was repeating everything he said 2 or 3 times, but it was okay because Luke's brain was functioning so slowly he needed extra help. Do you know much history? Jen's dad asked. Luke tried to remember if there were any history books among his family's collection in the attic. Did adventure stories long ago count? Just the books that Jen loaned me. Which ones? Luke pointed to the ones on the shelves of the computer, and then she gave me some articles, some printouts from the computer. Jen's dad nodded. So, you got propaganda from both sides, she said. No truth. What do you mean? Luke asked. The government publications are trying to convince people one thing, so they stretch facts. The underground is just as extreme in its own way, making statistics match their cause, so you know nothing. Alright, so the father's telling him that the books that he read and the sheets that he read, that both of them are lying in certain ways. Jen said the stuff in the computer was true, Luke said defensively. Just saying her name made him wince. Now she was dead. How could she be dead? Jen's dad waved that away impatiently. She believed what she wanted to, but I'm afraid, he stopped. And Luke was afraid Jen's dad might start crying again. Then he swallowed hard and went on. I'm afraid I encouraged her. I passed along some slanted information. I wanted to give her hope that someday the population law would be repealed. I didn't know that she'd. Luke knew he wouldn't be able to bear seeing Jen's dad break down again. So what should I know? What's the truth? The truth, Jen's dad muttered, catching on to those 2 words as though Luke had thrown him a lifeline. He recovered himself quickly. Nobody really knows. There have been too many lies for too long. Our government is totalitarian, and totalitarian governments never like the truth. Alright, so a totalitarian government is a government where the government has total control. That's why it has a totalitarian in it, so total. So it's basically almost like a lot of like dictatorships were totalitarian. So basically, they make all the decisions for all the people. It's not like a democracy. So I don't know if you guys understand too much of the government, the way our government works, but basically, we vote for people to represent us, and then those people are supposed to take the ideas that we have and try to do things that the people who voted for them want. Totalitarian government doesn't really behave that way. Basically, whoever's in power decides what they want to have happen, and that's what happens. So that's what they're talking about. In this society that these people are living in, like the government controls everything, and people don't have a choice. This made no sense to Luke, but he let Jen's dad go on talking. Do you know about the famines? Remember, famine is starvation because of no food. Luke nodded. Before that, our country believed in freedom and democracy and equality for all. Then the famines came, and the government was overthrown. There were riots in every city over food, and many, many people were killed. When General Sherwood came to power, he promised law and order and food for all. By then, that was all the people wanted, and all that they got. Luke squinted, trying to understand. This was all grown-up talk, pure and simple. No, it was worse than grown-up talk he was used to, because all of his parents ever talked about was the corn harvest, their bills, and the likelihood of frost at the end of May. Those Luke understood. Governments being overthrown, cities rioting, these were beyond his comprehension. Barons got more, he blurted. Then he blushed because it sounded so rude. Jen's dad laughed. True, you noticed. I know it's not fair, and I'm not proud of it, but government officials made a conscious decision to allow one class of people to have special privilege. Jen probably introduced you to junk food, didn't she? Luke nodded. That's a good example. Officially it's illegal, but nobody ever gets arrested for supplying barons with junk food. which is mighty convenient considering that all the powerful government officials are barons. The cynicism in his voice sounded so much like Jen and Luke that almost gave in to the grief again, but he forced himself to focus on what Jen's dad was saying. So again, they're kind of like saying how the father and Jen are similar in the way they see the world. The government justifies keeping everybody else in poverty, that is being poor, because people seem to work the hardest when they are right on the edge of survival. The government does try to make sure that most people, the ones who cooperate, do survive. If you've heard your parents talking about farmers, you'll know that nobody loses their farms anymore, but also nobody ever makes enough to live comfortably. So now, this father here is basically saying that the government is purposely making the lives of people hard just to control them because they feel like they work harder if they are suffering. Luke thought about his parents' constant worries about money. Was this all unnecessary? Were they just being manipulated? He felt a spark of anger, but buried it too because he had other questions. But even barons have to follow the population law, he says. Is that because it's necessary? Are there too many people? Are there? Probably not, Jen's dad said. If food had been distributed fairly, if people hadn't panicked, if we had good leaders being honest about the need for everybody's cooperation, we could have survived this crisis without curtailing anyone's rights. And now, it shouldn't be a problem if some people choose to have 3 or 4 kids, as long as some other people choose to have none. But the population law became General Sherwood's proudest accomplishment. That's why even barons aren't exempt. He points to that and says, "See how much control I have over my people's lives?" Um, so, we haven't really discussed it too much, but again, certain countries actually did try to pass population laws. China had a one-child policy for a bunch of years. I'm pretty sure they got rid of it because there were so many people in China that they were afraid, similarly to like in this story, that they would run out of food. So they basically banned people having more than one kid, but then that caused a huge amount of other problems, and China wound up getting rid of that eventually. All right, so the end of this chapter got cut off here for some reason. I have no idea why. So we're gonna go to the other part. Why isn't it letting me go backwards? Here we go. So the end of the chapter is here. So it's wrong, Luke said, trying to grasp the point. Yeah, I believe so, Jen's dad said. Luke felt a strange sense of relief that it wasn't truly wrong for him to exist, just illegal. For the first time since he read those government books, he could see the two things being separate. Maybe that's why he'd been too scared to go to the rally. If he truly believed, the way that Jen had, then he might have gone. And would he have been killed as she was? It was all too confusing and scary to think about. Jen's father looked at his watch. "I need to get back to work. I can only hide you so much. If you want it, I can have a fake ID for you by tomorrow night. In the meantime, I advise you to..." He broke off. Luke knew why. A sound from his worst nightmares, pounding on the door in a command. "Open up! Population police!" So that's where we will stop it. So someone is banging on the door